Lecture 3 Monetary System Part 2. From the Part 1, we have understand the basics of money and the money creation. So now in Part 2, we will explain the application of money in two cases. One is the monetary transmission mechanism, and two is the effects of money on the inflation in the economy. So now, from the market for money, we have two diagrams. The first diagram shows the relation between the money the amount of money M and the interest rate. And in the second diagram, we show the relation between the amount of money M and the value of money. So in the first diagram, we see that money supply always depends on monetary policy, so the money supply is always be vertical. And money demand has the negative relation with interest rate. If interest rate is higher, so money demand is lower. And if interest rate is lower, so money demand is higher. The interaction between money supply and money demand will give you the equilibrium in the economy, and it will determine the interest rate in the economy. So if we have the changes in money supply here or the changes in money demand, the money supply or money demand may shift to the new position. And so we will have also the new equilibrium in the economy. The new equilibrium bring the new interest rate in the economy. And if we use the second diagram, show the relation between the amount of money and the value of money. So we also have money supply as the vertical line, because the money supply always depends on monetary policy, and the money demand is downward sloping. It has the negative relation with the value of money. If the value of money is higher, it means that the price of goods and services is lower. So the demand for money also be lower, because when the price is lower, we don't need much money for the payment. And if the price of goods and services increase, it makes the value of money reduce. We need to have more money for the payment, so money demand increase. The interaction between money supply and money demand give we the equilibrium in the markets. So if there is a change in the money supply or money demand, the money supply curve or the money demand curve shift to the new position, we won't have a new equilibrium in the markets. And so there will be the change for the value of money. So now, apply the first diagram, we will explain the effect of monetary changes in the economy, and this is called monetary transmission mechanism. There are 4 important steps, so please try to understand the following explanation. To explain the monetary transmission mechanism, we use 4 diagrams, and each diagram represents one market. The first diagram represents the money markets, including money supply and money demand. And this is the equation to show the equilibrium in the money markets. The second diagram shows the relation between interest rate and investment. And here we have the equation for investment. So if if interest rate is higher, so firms have to pay more when they borrow money for investment, so they will borrow fewer or less money for investment. And here we have the negative relation between interest rate and investment. So the investment curve is downward sloping. The third diagram shows the expenditure in the economy. And there are 4 components of expenditure. I will explain more about the expenditure in the following lecture, so please accept this equation and also the diagram like this. And finally, the last equation is the relation between price level and GDP in the economy, and we use big Y to stand for GDP. So now let's go to the explanation. In the first step, if we have an increase in money supply, and remember that when we increase the money supply, this is called the increase in money supply is called expansionary monetary policy. And the central bank may use the 3 operations to increase the money supply and launch the expansionary monetary policy. So with the changes in the 3 operations like this, the money supply increase, and in the diagram, it will shift to the right at the higher level. Money supply increase and shift to the right. In this market, we have new equilibrium, and interest rate reduced to the new equilibrium, small I2. And if interest rate is lower, so firm will have to pay less when they borrow money, so they will borrow more, and investment increase. When investment increase, the aggregate expenditure in the economy increase, and it makes GDP increase. So now finally, we can see that if increase the amount of money, so investment increase, and we may have higher GDP. But if firms are not ready to produce more goods and services like this, so the supply curve is upward sloping, and finally there will be an increase in the price of goods and services. This is the inflation. So now, please recall the whole mechanism to see what is the result of a expansionary monetary policy. The result may be shown in each diagram. In the first diagram, the monetary policy give you a lower interest rate. In the second diagram, we have higher investment. In third diagram, we have higher expenditure. And in the last diagram, we have both higher price and higher GDP. So this is the result or the effect of monetary transmission in the economy. Other effects of inflation is the inflation. Other effects of money is the inflation or the change of value of money. So now, if we increase money supply and the money supply shift to the right, so the value of money reduces, and it means that the price of goods and services increase. There will be inflation, and inflation may be expected or unexpected in the economy. So now we will explain the cost of inflation to the society. The detail in the explanation is in your textbook. So please find the explanation of the cost of inflation in the textbook. And here I have some brief explanation. When there is inflation in the economy, the explanation, the inflation may be expected or unexpected. So if in the first case, inflation is expected, there will be some cost to the society. The first cost is lower purchasing power and tax policy. It means that with the inflation, we can buy fewer goods and services with the same amount of money. Second is the shoe leather cost. When there is inflation, the interest rate in the economy also change. And if you have some money in the bank, we need to change the maturity, we need to go to the bank to redeposit the amount of money to earn the higher interest rate. So it means that we have to go to the bank, and it requires many times. It also take you cost in terms of your health, in terms of your times, and many other costs relating to going to the bank. And this called shoe leather cost. Menu cost is another cost to the society when there is inflation. It means that when there is inflation, we have to print new menu to show the new price, and all the cost relating to reinform the new prices is called menu cost. So sometimes when the price increase, firms would rather maintain the price to avoid this type of cost, menu cost. Misallocation of resources. When there is inflation, one maybe in this sector there is the increase in the price, but reduce the price in other sector. So as the result, the inflation makes the first sector increase the value and require more allocation. But in fact, we do not produce more goods and services in the first sector. So the increase in the first sector is just the increase in the price, not the demand for resources. So there will be misallocation of resources in this sector. Another cost to the society is the inflation-induced tax distortion. When there is inflation, it seems that firms or the banks always change interest rate or wage to avoid inflation, and the tax rate remains the same. But in fact, when we have to pay the tax based on the money we have, we also have to pay more tax. And the explanation of this type of cost inflation can be practiced by one exercise in the textbook. I will ask you the exercise later. And the last cost to the society is confusion and inconvenience. As we see that money is the medium of exchange and is the unit of account. So if there is inflation, the value of money will change. And when we use money as the unit of account, so now the unit of account change. So it will lead to the confusion of the value of something when we use money to measure the value of something. So here are some kind of cost to the society when inflation is expected. In another case, when inflation is unexpected, it happened unexpectedly, even when we have the contract, we expect the inflation. But actually, the inflation may be different from the expected inflation. So there is the arbitrary redistribution of wealth. So what does it mean? For example, when we make a contract in the bank, so we expect that the inflation may be 5% and we require interest rate 7%. And if the interest rate is 7%, is higher than the expected inflation, and we still have some profit from the saving. But if actually the inflation rate is 7%, equal to the interest rate 7%, so now we have no profit from the saving. And the banks still pay the same interest rate, 7%. So now we will lose in this saving, and this is called redistribution of wealth. This cost is also happen when we make a contract between the company and labor. So it will affect the real wage to the worker. It also happens when we make a contract between the homeowner and the people rent the house. It also leads to the redistribution of wealth. And this cost to the society is also be practiced by one exercise. So this is the end of the explanation for two kind of effects of money in the economy. So firstly, we explain the effects of money on the economy using monetary transmission mechanism. And second, we explain the effect of money leading to the cost of inflation to the society. So this is the end of part 2, lecture 3.